That's good. That's good. Laptop. Okay. Okay. Oh, just a minute. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session, Sunday morning. I'm sure it would have been difficult for most of you to join in, but very happy that you joined in spite of your other schedules on a Sunday, that too. But it makes a lot of sense when we are talking about finance. Uh, we need to make our money work for us. So that way, it is okay for us to work a few Sundays also to learn how to make money work for us on all days. So that way, what is that? Oh yeah. Just a minute. I think, I guess there are a few people in the waiting room. I'll just let them in. I'll just make anybody join. Okay, fine. Okay. So, as usual, I'll skip the introductions because all of you know me and what I do. So, basically, the next 5 sessions, the next 3 sessions, we are going to be focusing on creating assets and wealth. So, we'll be discussing about all these: bank deposits, stock market, real estate, gold, and more things also. So when we are talking about assets and wealth, we need to understand something. So what is wealth? Let us first understand that before we go into the other parts. Can somebody tell me? You can maybe switch on your mics and tell me what is your understanding of wealth, or you can put it in the chat.
Hello, sir.
Properties, okay. Anybody else? Super. Happiest life without any struggle. Okay. Health is wealth, as they say. So health is also wealth. Yeah, definitely, without any questions. In fact, why we say health is wealth also will be linked to this definition of wealth, what we understand by wealth. Now, let me ask you this way. Like, when we say somebody as wealthy person, what comes to your mind? When we say somebody is a wealthy person, what comes to our mind? Okay. Being rich, being happiest person, and all that. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to clarify here also. It is that being rich is different and being wealthy is different. So how is this going to be different? The difference is that in terms of how wealth and how being rich, they are measured. The measurement tool, the measurement dimension itself is different. The unit for measurement is different. When we say being rich, that is measured in rupees. So somebody has, let's say, 1 crore rupee, and then somebody else has 2 crores rupees. Then the person who has 2 crore rupees is more richer. Okay. So cash in hand is wealth. No, I'll clarify these for you now. So, so when we say it is being rich, it is all measured in rupees. So somebody has 10 crores, that person is more richer than the person who has 2 crores, who in turn is richer than a person who has 1 crore. So that is measured in rupees. So 1,000 crores you have, then you are even more wealthier. So that is why we say Mukesh Ambani is the richest person, richest Indian who has lakhs of crores. So that is the definition for, measurement for being rich. But the measurement for wealth is different. It is not rupees at all. Let me make that clear. The measurement of wealth is not in rupees. It may be mindset also, but there is some other measurement also which can clearly be measured. This is the measurement for wealth. So a person's wealth is defined by the period of time that he or she can sustain the lifestyle if they if they stop working today. So wealth is measured in terms of time. How long can I sustain the same lifestyle if I stop working today? That is the definition of wealth. It is measured in time, not in rupees. So then, what are the factors which will influence wealth? There are 3 factors. Let us look at that. The first factor, the negative factor, that's why it's marked in red, is the monthly expenses. So let's say one person, there are 2 people, both of them have 1 crore rupees as income. One person spends, let's say, 1 lakh rupees every month. Then what is his wealth? It is 1 crore divided by 1 lakh. So wealth of the first person is 100 months, because he has 1 crore, he spends 1 lakh every month. So the wealth is 100 months. Let's look at another person. He also has the same 1 crore. So richness wise, they are all the same. But the second person spends only 50,000 rupees per month. Now, what is the wealth of this second person? It is 200 months, because to use that 1 crore at 50,000 rupees per month, it takes 200 months. So the second person is more wealthier than the first person. Third case, there can be a third person who has 1 crore, same 1 crore, but he spends 2 lakhs every month. Now what happens to this person's wealth? It comes down to only 50 months, because the 2 lakhs, if I keep spending every month, my entire richness will be exhausted in just 50 months. Okay, so monthly expense has a big influence on our wealth. That is why we could relate to some of the sayings that people have, right? In Tamil, people say that ivar 7 தலைமுறைக்கு சம்பாதிச்சு வெச்சிட்டாருப்பா. So which basically translates to saying this person has earned for the next 7 generations. But have we practically seen any of these so-called rich families surviving on the same wealth for 7 generations? It cannot happen, because the great grandfather has saved, has created enough richness to survive for 7 generations based on his expenses at that time. So if the future generations don't keep earning more money, if they keep spending as per the current lifestyle, then the richness cannot survive for 7 generations. It will be over in the 2nd generation itself, or maximum 3 generations. That's all. That is how we would have seen happening in our surroundings, our neighborhood, and all those things. So expense has a major impact on the wealth. Second thing is, we need to have liquid assets also. We cannot have all our wealth only, richness only in assets which are only for the long term. We also need to have liquid assets. This is what we were discussing with Mr. Kashi when we were just starting sometime before the session. We need to have some liquid assets also to mainly take care of our emergency requirements, and also some cash flows. I need to have a day-to-day living. I cannot say, okay, I only have land, and all that land will grow in value after some 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. That is fine. But what about my day-to-day living? I need to have food. I need to take care of my basic lifestyle, basic expenses. If I have all my wealth only as barren land, then I cannot live. So I need to have some provisions where I can have some liquid assets also. So that also is important. Most important, in fact, is to create some amount of passive income, which means I don't work, but somebody else or some of my assets will keep earning me money and giving me income on a monthly basis. So passive income is something that we need to build over a period of time. It cannot happen overnight. So we need to build it over a period of time. And by the time of retirement, we should target for at least 50% of our expenses to be coming in from the passive income. If we can, ideally we should target for 100%, but for all practical purposes, it may be a bit difficult. So we need to have at least 50% of it coming from the passive income. Rest we can manage from our the richness, which we can close and convert that into income. So wealth, I'll say this again, is not in rupees, but in terms of the period of time for which I can maintain the same lifestyle that I'm maintaining today using my current assets. So that is the definition of wealth. It is measured in time. It is not measured in rupees. Fine. Now coming to this part, we need to understand what are assets, right? We are talking about having assets which will give me passive income and which will convert into wealth and all those things. So what are assets? So I have a poll. Let's quickly understand which of these do you think are assets? You can place a tick mark on those which you think are assets. You can choose more than one in the list. If you think all of them are assets, you can click all of them. If you think only few of them are assets, you can click only those. Superb, superb. So let me end the polling and see the results. Now sharing the results. Okay, one person has said gold jewelry is an asset. No, it is not. Agriculture land, definitely an asset because it earns. Commercial building, all of you have said it is an asset. Fantastic. They are assets. Own house that I live in is not an asset. We'll see why. Bank fixed deposit, not necessarily an asset, but yes, it is a savings plan. Life insurance endowment plan, definitely not an asset. Very rightly said, mobile phones, white goods, cars, they are all not assets. Fantastic. No, none of you have marked them as assets. Shares in stock market, all of you have said they are assets. Fantastic. I'm very happy. Again, furniture and interior design of assets, I'm very happy. None of you have said it is an asset. They are not assets. Car let out on rent, only one of you has said it's an asset, but it is actually an asset. House or building let out on rent, definitely an asset. Knowledge, definitely an asset. Health, fantastic. Everyone of you has said it is an asset. Fine. So let's spend some time to understand why we are saying some of these are assets and some of them are not an asset. Okay. So I'll just bring back the whole results. So we'll basically check for each one of these in terms of why something is called an asset and why something is not called an asset. So gold jewelry is not an asset. Why? And before that, let's understand what is the definition of an asset. We had definitions for everything, right? What is rich? What is being wealthy? Now we also need to understand what is the definition of an asset. And there are two more other things also which we need to be very clear. They are assets, liabilities, and expenses. So we need to understand these three things very clearly. Only then we can go into creating the assets. So what is in the first part, what is the definition of an asset? An asset is something, as per personal finance, an asset is something that will earn more than what it consumes for its maintenance. So that is an asset. And it is a definition for a asset in all the places. Let it be a factory, let it be for the government, let it for personal finance, for us also. So let us go into it a bit more deeper. What does the definition say? It says an asset is something that gives me something more. It need not be huge amount more. So it only says something more. Something more than what it consumes for maintaining itself. So in simple terms, we say it should give a positive cash flow. So any asset will have some maintenance cost. So we need to spend on that. So more than the maintenance, if it gives me some money, then the cash flow becomes positive. If it consumes less, if it gives me back less money than what it consumes, then it becomes negative cash flow. So maintenance is something that we need to do for all assets, maybe in terms of time, in terms of actual money that we spend, or whatever other things. So there is some consumption of money. So if an asset gives me more money than what it consumes, then there is positive cash flow. It's an asset. If it consumes more money than what it gives back, then it is not an asset. When it is not an asset, again, it can be of two types. When it is not an asset, it can be of two types. One, it can be an expense, which means you just spend it once. That's it. After that, it does not consume any money and it does not give us any money back also. It can be an expense. What can be a typical example for expense? It can be the furniture at home. It can be a mobile phone. Because you spend it once. After that, you don't spend any money on that. You just throw it away. That's all. It's forgotten. It's of no use after that. But in one way, this expense is okay category. There is one more category where it always consumes more money than it is giving us. So there is always a cash flow, negative cash flow. We need to always keep money, pumping in money just to maintain it at a stage. It never gives us back any money. That is a liability. So we have three categories. One, an asset. Next is an expense. Then the worst thing is the liability. What is a liability? The house that I own and I myself live in the house. That in fact is a liability. Why? Because I need to spend and spend and spend on its maintenance, tax, and all those things. But it does not earn me any money. Even if you consider the opportunity cost, saying, sir, I have my own house, so I'm not spending anything on rent. So is that not money saved? Yes, it is money saved. But do you spend money equal to the rental of a similar house, or do you spend more money than that when you are living in your house? Generally, the cost is more, just for living and maintaining in your house. So that way, the house that you live in, that you own and live in yourself, is actually not an asset. But again, you could come back and tell me saying, anyway, the value of the house is improving, right? Earlier, my typical example is myself actually. My grandpa built this house. Fine. So at that time, it was only a few thousand rupees to build the house. Today, it can be sold for a few crores. So is that not increase in value? Is not the value increasing? Yes, the value is increasing, but it is only paper money. Are you ready to sell that house that you are living in? If you are not ready to sell that house, then it is only paper money. There is no use for that value. You can have so many extra zeros written behind it. But what is the meaning of all those zeros? Few thousands has become a few crores, sir. Fine, fantastic, very happy. But so what? Will that help you in any way? Those additional zeros? No. If you don't want to sell that, you are only living there. Whatever may be the emergency, if you say, no, I'm not going to sell this house because it is my grandfather's house, then there is no point there. The value is still zero because I'm not going to sell it. It is only paper money. Okay. So that is where again gold jewelry also comes in. Gold jewelry, it is better if I consider that as an expense. It is an expense for your loved ones. I don't say don't buy jewelry for your wife, for your daughter and all those things. Please buy. But it is an expense. Remember that in mind. Don't think it is an investment. It will grow. I will sell and all those things. It is not going to happen.
Sir, gold is a liquid fund, liquid asset, right, sir?
Gold, maybe you can call all that. But actually, when you look at its actual rate of growth, it only matches for inflation. When the inflation is more, gold also goes up.
Yes.
That is how it is. Gold can be very quickly converted into a loan. So that is the biggest advantage of gold.
Yes.
But in terms of actual value of its growth, no, it does not really grow. I have some detailed analysis related to gold. I'll share it with you,
Okay.
including an article of mine which was published in Hindu Business Line. I will share all those articles, and also today again gold has touched for 10 gram of pure gold 50,000 rupees. So people are saying, wow, gold has gone up, and all that. That is fine. Okay, be cool. Okay. It is not matched for the returns from other assets. Even now, even when it has touched 50,000 and all that. And gold also is not a one-way growth of value again. It also goes through a cycle. Sometimes it goes up, then it comes down. Then it stays just like that for a long period. From 2008 till when there was a previous stock market crash and global turndown because of the US banks going bankrupt and housing loans not being paid and all that. At that time, there was a big jump in gold price. From something like 15 to 16,000 rupees, it went up to 36,000 rupees. There it stayed for almost 12 years. And now it has touched 50,000 rupees. So that is how it is. After a major crisis, it goes up and then stays. And what does it do? It catches up with the inflation which has been happening for the last 10 years and then jumps quickly and then stays again. So that is how gold works. So we cannot use that as we cannot call that a big asset as such, because it is not growing. It is not giving me back any earnings. I only need to maintain it, keep it in a bank locker, pay some money for that and all those things. And we pay huge amount of money for gold jewelry upfront in terms of the making charges and wastages. That itself will be significant outflow of wasting money. Nowhere can you get gold jewelry for less than 10%, 15% of making charges and wastages. Yes, there are advertisements which say only 2%, only 4%. There will be so many hidden charges that we'll know only when we are sitting there with the salesperson of the jeweler. 10 to 15% very easily will go away when you buy gold jewelry. Fine. Fixed deposits, yes, we can somewhat call it an asset, but it does not match for inflation. So that is another thing that we need to consider. Will it match for will it grow more than inflation? We'll look at that in detail now. Mobile phone, mobile goods, and all those things, they are definitely not assets. The definition that we can look at for checking for an asset is when I buy it and come back home and I don't like it. If I want to sell it, what will happen to its value? If the value quickly drops, saying it is second-hand product, then it is not an asset. Typical. So you buy a car, you don't like it, value goes down, second-hand car. Mobile phone you buy, you want to sell it, goes down, value goes down, second-hand phone, second-hand fridge, second-hand washing machine, second-hand TV, second-hand AC. So anything which immediately goes down in value because it is second-hand cannot be an asset. They will all be typically be expenses. Furniture and interior, same way. Interior design, extreme way, because even furniture you can sell for some value, but interior decorations of house, value is zero. Nobody will value the value of your interiors. When you want to sell your house, they will only look at square feet so much, that's all. Interior, you would have spent tens of lakhs of rupees. They will say, no, I don't need it. If you want, you can take it. How can we take it? No. So its values become zero. Knowledge, yes, we make money out of it. Health, yes, we make money out of it. So those are definitely big assets. Car let out on rent, car owned and kept only for my use, not an asset. It's a liability, in fact, because I need to pay for insurance, its maintenance, yearly maintenance itself will be some 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, insurance another 10,000 rupees. So I keep spending on your car. But if a car is being used as a taxi, then we earn money out of the car. So that is an asset. Okay, so happy with this discussion. And when we are looking at investments and savings, there are two types. These are the differences. Basically, savings is typically for the short term. Anything less than, up to 3 years, I will call it as typically savings oriented term. More than 3 years, we can look at typically the investment part. And savings typically don't beat inflation. So that is where the fixed deposits come in. They don't beat inflation at all. Life insurance endowment plans, they don't beat inflation. Or your the girl child plan launched by the government of India, the Suganya Samriddhi schemes and all those things. Postal deposits, they all don't beat inflation. So they are typically savings plans. Investments beat inflation. Real estates, your buildings, your may not be apartments, but today's case, yes, apartments also beat inflation. But long term, I'm doubtful, because even today, when there's so many apartments are coming in, and you have only shared assets and all those things, sometimes apartments, today it is not happening. They do beat inflation, but over a period of time, I'm expecting that apartments may not beat inflation. Their price will go up, but will they beat inflation? That becomes a question. Long term, that is my opinion. But landed houses, yes, they will beat inflation, because you are owning the land, and the land value is definitely appreciating. Share markets, yes, they beat inflation. And what is the purpose of savings? Purpose of saving is to preserve capital. If I put in 100 rupees, that 100 rupees should not become 99 rupees. That at least 100 rupees should come back to me. Whether it becomes 110 or 120, that is not my point. I need that 100 back. That is the purpose of savings. So any of your very fixed goals for the short term, we should definitely use savings only, and typically for the short term goals. Investments are to create wealth. There will be fluctuations. If you have put in 100 rupees, it might come down to 99, 98, 95, 90, 85. It might come down. But over a period of time, when you're looking at the long term, they create wealth. Instead of 100 rupees, it will give you 200 rupees. That is possible only with investments. I'm sorry, I didn't share that. Stop the sharing of the results. So investments will grow. They will create wealth. That is where our money works for us. Savings, we still work. Investments is where our money starts working for us. It becomes more. and it works all throughout. There is no rest time for investments. Savings takes rest. Savings is less returns. Sometimes it may be even no returns, doesn't matter, but it serves the purpose of short-term goal. Investments will be more returns. Savings is less risky. This is where people talk about guaranteed returns and all those things. They are typically savings. Investment, nobody talks about guarantee. They say subject to market risks. So there it can go up and down. There will be fluctuations and all those things. But over a period of time, in spite of all these fluctuations, it only keeps going up. So that is the benefit of investments. So there is something typically called as asset class mismatch. This is something that we need to be very careful of when we are looking at the long-term investments in the market. In any way, anything, this is the key for our goal-based investment plans and financial planning itself. We need to understand this very, very, very carefully. So I have two axes. One is the cost. Another side is the years to goal. So let us say our today's consumption is 2 bags of rice. Let's say for 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is, or every month we consume 2 bags of rice. I'm comparing this bags of rice to our lifestyle. Okay. So this is a basic thing that we will anyway consume. So when I consume 2 bags of rice, let's say, and let's consider today's cost 1,250 rupees, maybe for a 25 kg bag, typical cost for a bag of rice. So what I want is that after some time, I want the same 2 kgs of bag. For that, I'm ready to invest or keep some money aside. Let's look at that. I'm ready to keep aside the 2,500 rupees today for meeting my requirement of 2 kgs of bag after some time. So where should I put the money? And what happens to that money? This is what we need to understand. So when the time is very short, when I'm looking at using this, again, buying back the 2 bags of rice in a very short period of time, savings is enough. I can just keep aside this 2,500. Maybe I want to buy it after 1 year. Now it is July end. Next year, July end, I want to buy the same 2 kgs of bag, 2 bags of rice. I keep aside 2,500 today. And maybe next year, if I go, this money would have maybe grown to 2,550 rupees. And maybe the bag of rice at that time, maybe another 50 rupees, 100 rupees difference. Doesn't matter. Even if I put in a small amount from my pocket, I get my 2 bags of rice. There is no problem at all. Short-term savings is enough. But when I'm looking at long-term, what happens in the long term? Let's look at 10 years from now or 15 years from now. Then what happens? This 2,500 which I had put in as savings has become 5,000 rupees. The money has grown. This is where the typical LIC agents who are selling endowment will tell you. You are putting in only 4 lakhs rupees, sir. You will get back 12 lakhs 50,000 rupees. You get something more, double more, triple more, that is fine. But using that to 5,000 rupees, how many bags of rice can you get after 15 years? Will you get the same 2 bags of rice? That is where the major question comes up. Answer is no. Maybe you will get only 1 bag of rice. So what are we seeing here? I am saving the value of 2 bags of rice now, but after 15 years, the money has grown. Instead of 2,500, I get 5,000 rupees. It has grown, but do I get 2 bags of rice at that time? Answer is no. I get only 1 bag of rice. So what does that mean? Money has grown, but inflation is growing even more faster. So instead of 2 bags of rice, I get only 1 bag of rice. Can I survive on that? That is my problem. This is where we miss out on the asset. So this is what we call as asset class mismatch. For long term, instead of investing, I have saved my money. So I'm getting some increase in value, similar to gold. I get some increase in value, but will I get something which I can get from investment? Investment will give me not 5,000 rupees, it will give me 15,000 rupees, with which I can buy 3 bags of rice. That is what is investment. I have put in money for 2 bags of rice today, and I am getting money worth 3 bags of rice. That is called investment. Savings, we only look at the value of money, the actual amount of money which has grown, not its purchasing capacity. Investments, we not only look at the value of money, the amount of money, but also its purchasing capacity. I'm sorry. The purchasing capacity also has to go up when I'm looking at the long term. This is where many of us are doing mistakes. We put in, based on guaranteed plans, we put it only in the savings for the long term, and in turn, we are losing out on the guarantee to buy 2 bags of rice. We are getting only 1 bag of rice. This is the difficulty for the long term. So this is the investment pyramid. So what happens is, all these are the low risk items, and they don't give any big returns also. Gold and silver, money market, savings account, and cash, gold. So all these things are the low risk items, yes, but they don't give any huge returns also. The next step, we have bonds or deposits kind of things. Government securities, bonds, blue chip stocks, yeah, they become again returns. And then comes rental properties, high quality stocks, mutual funds. Finally, of course, you have commodities, penny stocks, but they may not give you returns on a sustainable basis. They are very high risk items. So there is a big chance that we might lose money also when we are looking at these commodities and penny stocks. I would recommend for our group, who's basically looking at starting out our investment journey, who's starting out our financial wellness plan, to focus only up to the first 3 levels. When I'm looking at safety, I will go in for this bottom part. When I'm looking at the growth and investments, I will look at the 3rd rung here, which is the rental property and high quality stocks and mutual funds. We'll look at rental and mutual funds and other things in the further sessions. So these 2 parts we'll look at in today's session. So where do I look out for when I'm looking at the short-term techniques? Mutual funds, again, I'll discuss when we come to mutual funds itself. So some of the very good places where we can look at savings for the short term are our recurring deposits and company bonds and fixed deposits of banks. They are safe. They are typically for the short term, and they serve to meet our goals in a very clear manner. That is most important. So how do they work, and for what objective should we be looking at? The recurring deposits can be looked at for many goals, which are typically on a yearly basis. So let's look at what those goals can be also. So for different, these can be the typical savings objectives. So we can talk about an emergency fund. So this is what we were discussing before the start of this session. Excuse me. So what do I mean by emergency fund? And why should we have it? Typically during this COVID time, we can very easily relate to this emergency fund, where the fear is, what if I lose my job? Many people are losing their jobs. What if I lose my job? So to answer that comes our 6 months expenses to be kept aside as emergency fund. This again cannot happen overnight. We need to plan and accumulate it at least over a period of 2 years. Maximum of 2 years. Before that, we need to accumulate this once you start. 6 months of expenses. I'm not saying 6 months of salaries also. At least some 6 months of expenses. So that even if we lose a job, there won't be too much of pressure on our mind, on our heads, on our shoulders also. Why is that coming up? Because once there are so many liabilities that we have built in. We need to pay this, for that. There's a school fees. There's a EMI going in, the living expenses, food, milkman, this, that, rent. So many things are there, which whether I get my income or not, I need to spend on. So when I lose a job, then what happens? There's so much of pressure building up. And if I don't have enough liquid money to manage that, I'm under tremendous stress. To prevent that from happening, we need to have the emergency fund. Why 6 months? Because it's enough. 1 or 2 months is not enough, because again, we'll be under a lot of pressure to jump on the first job that comes up. 20% discount, cut on the salary, fine, yeah, give me something, because I need to meet my next month's expenses. So give me some job, I'm ready to come. We don't have to fall like that for a potential employer. And what happens if somebody says, okay, you need to come to this city for an interview? Normally, again, we'll have a dilemma. What if I go there and those guys don't give me the job? Where is that expense going to come from? What if this happens? What if that happens? There's so much of worry in my mind. If I have this 6 months expenses, I will not worry. I'll have confidence even to go to that interview first. Let it be another city. Let it be that I need to catch a flight and land there. Doesn't matter. I will take that confidently, because I know I have time till the next 6 months to land up for the next job. So more opportunities open up when I'm free from pressure. When I'm under pressure, very few opportunities will come up, and we are under tremendous stress even to grab on that, and our performance also goes off. So emergency fund, the other need for the emergency fund is particularly when we have any dependent parents with us, or any dependent senior persons with us, because medical emergencies can come at any point in time. Yes, we were discussing about health insurance in our last session, how it helps and all those things. But again, even while we were discussing about health insurance, we said that we should have some cash, because even for the cost of admission of a person into a hospital, we need some cash. And before the insurance company approves those claims and reimbursement and all those things, in case of an emergency, we might need to pay from our hands so that the treatment can start quickly. At least for that, we need some emergency cash. So that is the emergency fund. The other most important savings objective will be for school fees, yearly school fees, yearly college fees of our children. Where will this money come from? Typically, I've had so many people coming in and saying, okay, gold loan, personal loan, credit card swipe, and we'll convert that into an EMI for 1 year. No, those are not the right ways to manage our yearly costs. The ideal way to manage these yearly costs is going for recurring deposits in your bank itself, the bank where your salary is getting credited. Use that for your yearly expenses. Yearly expenses can also be your car insurance. It can be your life insurance, your health insurance. If you have dependent parents, then again your cost is going to be more. So all these things which are going to come up on a yearly basis, yearly pilgrimage also. So any cost which comes up on a yearly basis, on a recurring basis, for all that, look out for your 1 year recurring deposit with the bank where your salary is getting credited itself. You don't have to run around here and there and all those things. Not required at all. Because the difference between recurring deposits between one bank and another bank may be 0.25%, 0.5%. And you are anyway going to do it only for 1 year. So why worry about that small amount of money for by running here and there and all those things? It won't even earn your petrol cost. So not required. Wherever your salary is credited, there itself start your recurring deposit. Best way to manage all your yearly expenses. Let's say, for example, my car insurance is 10,000 rupees yearly basis. What do I do? And I renewed it this month only. What have I done? I start one RD this month itself for 1 year in my savings account bank. For how much? 850 rupees. So what happens is, over a period of a year, this 850 rupees is saved in my recurring deposit. Interest, maybe some small amount, but this 10,000 rupees is available with me in my recurring deposit. For anybody, if you say, today give me 10,000 rupees, it is going to be a big task. But 850 rupees monthly basis, no problems. It will go on. Very easy. Is it not? But that money slowly accumulates there. So that is the way to look at your annual expenses. Let it be school fees, same way. And somebody might say, okay, school fees, sir, they ask for 3 times, not in one lump sum. I pay some amount in April, some amount in October, again some amount in January. Then what do I do? Fine, start 3 RDs. That's all. Simple. Let's say the child school fees was 50,000 rupees yearly. To begin with, you pay 25,000, then another 15,000, then finally another 10,000. So in April, start an RD for 2,000 rupees. That will become 24,000 rupees for that, to compensate for that 25. October, start one for 1,100 rupees. So that will take care of your 15,000. January, start one for 1,000 rupees again. So that will take care of your 10,000. You get something more, fine. But put it in round sums so that it's much more comfortable for you to manage. Don't worry about number of RDs. Each one will have a goal for you. Give it a name also. So that will be for April school fees, October school fees, January school fees. Very clear. Don't call it 1,000 rupees RD. Give it a name. Call it Avinash April school fees, Avinash October school fees, Avinash January school fees. Avinash is my son's name. So give it that name. So we know why we are doing that, and let it all be going into it. Start at different times, the same time that you need to pay the same month that you need to pay the actual fees. Very comfortable, convenient. And another areas where we can look at the savings part is typical down payment for a bike. Today bikes are become very costly and people want only costly bikes and all that. So we are talking about 70,000 bikes, 1 lakh bikes, 2 lakhs bikes, all those things. So start with a down payment. Or so let the significant amount come from the down payment. Don't look out only for the loan. If it is only 70,000 rupees, start just 2 years ago, before your actual purchase. Every month just save 2,000 rupees. You would have got your 70,000 rupees there. So that is the biggest advantage from all these things. You want to buy a car, just start 2 years earlier. House, start some 5 years earlier. Small sum amounts, put it into your RDs and they will take care of your objectives. So where is savings not suitable for? This also we need to be very careful. So savings is typically for the short term only. That is something that we have been explaining using the earlier graph. So savings is not suitable for retirement planning. We should go for investments. We'll look at investments in the next session. Savings is not suitable for a born child's marriage funds. Savings is not suitable for a born child's college admission fund, because college admission we need 5 lakhs rupees, 10 lakhs rupees, that kind of a thing for a initial payment, or 2 lakhs every year for 3 years, 4 years, those kind of things. So you need big amount of money. It's not small amount of money. So RD will not help us at that time. So we need to start saving before itself. For a born child, start with college admission fund. So there we cannot go in for the savings part. So in summary, any goal which is for a period of more than 5 years, savings is not suitable. We'll have to go in for investments. So there can be one more question from our people. What do they say? Sir, you are saying even for a bike, I'm sorry, even for a bike, you are saying I should go in for RDs. Why should I do all that? I like the bike. I want the bike now. So let me take a loan and I will pay instead of an RD, which I should have started 2 years earlier, I will take a loan now and pay that in 2 years. What is a big deal? Why should I not take a loan? Simple. Look at this particular drawing. What is happening here? It is not just closing it off in 2 years. It is about what happens to the money. Are we smart enough with the money? That is the question here. It is about our smartness. Banks are smart. They are taking our money. We are not smart. We are giving our money. So the question is, are we smart enough when we are looking at our goals? So where are we missing out on the smartness? Let's say when I'm taking a loan, 2 years loan or bike loan, car loan, whatever, just for that 2 years or 3 years term, what is actually happening? I have a cash outflow of somewhere around 15%. The money is going down. I'm earning and giving that earning to somebody else. I'm losing this 15%. You get it? I'm losing this 15% because I didn't plan enough. But instead, if I had gone with a recurring deposit, maybe by itself it is not growing much. 5% mein kya hai, sir? What is there in 5%? Why should I be looking at only 5% return? What is a big deal? The big deal is here it is my money and my money is working for me at least for that 5%. And the difference is not just that 5% that I'm earning from that recurring deposit. Otherwise, what will I be doing? I'll be spending this 15%. So what is my actual gain? My actual gain is not just this 5%. It is in fact this 15% plus 5%. In reality, I am earning 20% if I can avoid that loan. If I can plan in advance and avoid this personal loan, my earning is not 5%, it is 20%. Is that not right? Now we have seen this graphically. Let's look at that numerically also, because I'm a numbers guy. I will not believe anything if I don't see it in numbers. So let us look at and be clear in terms of numbers also. I'll make it a bit larger so that we can see one after the other. Okay. Let's look at first the loan section. Let's say I want to take a 1 lakh rupees personal loan because I'm buying something, let it be furniture, a bike itself. Okay, I'm taking a the personal loan or vehicle loan. And mind you, vehicle loan, they advertise at that as 7% and all those things. It's not 7%. 7%. It is flat rate 7%. But when you look at it in terms of your diminishing interest, it will be somewhere around 15%, 16%. So I'm considering 15% as a personal loan interest today. Earlier it was somewhere around 18%. Now slightly come down during COVID period. We are talking about somewhere around 15%. Many banks, again, when we are talking about personal loan, it will be 18%. But I'm being very, again, conservative, looking at 15%. 1 year. We'll look at more years also. We'll do different calculations. So how much do I pay on a monthly basis? EMI, I pay only 9,000 rupees. Alright, okay, sir. Fine, let's do it. I get the bike. I pay only 9,000 rupees monthly basis. Fine, fantastic. Now look at the other alternative. If I had started 1 year earlier, paying the same 9,000 rupees, then what would have happened? Alright, that will also be 1 lakh only, right? No. See what has happened to that. And I'm considering only 5% interest. What has happened to this money? It has become not 1 lakh, it has become 1 lakh and 10,000 rupees. You get the idea? If I take a loan and pay off that 1 lakh, I would have paid off only 1 lakh rupees. But if I convert that into investment and start investing, I don't get just 1 lakh, I get 1 lakh and 10,000 rupees. That is the beauty of it. Now, if I convert this into 2-year loan, then what happens? 9,000 rupees I cannot pay, sir. I can pay maybe 5,000 rupees only. That's fine. Banker is very happy. He will give you that loan, sanction that loan immediately. We are also very happy because 10,000 is difficult to manage. I can pay 5,000 rupees monthly basis only. Very easy, comfortable, right? So 1 lakh rupees, this comes down to only 4,800. But if I put it as savings, now see what has happened here. Instead of again paying off that 1 lakh as loan, what do I get now in 2 years? I get 1,22,000 rupees. Is that not better value for money? And typically personal loans, 3 years, right? Even lesser. I pay only 3,500 per month. This is how banks pitch for us, saying, why pay only 1 year, sir? I will give you 3 years loan. You enjoy 3 years loan. You don't have to pay it quickly. Take your time. So I pay 3,467 rupees. Same 3,460. If I invest, start saving 3 years earlier for my that expense of 1 lakh, I get not 1 lakh, but I get 1,34,000 rupees. So this is why I say this is where money is working for me. I am not working for money. Here I am working for money. I have taken loan for 1 lakh. So I need to run to pay back that 1 lakh. Here I make the savings of 3,400 and that money runs for me. In turn, it is giving me not 1 lakh, but 1,34,000 rupees. This is what we need to be focusing on. Not just taking a loan, but planning a bit in advance and ensuring that we get more out of our hands. Fine. So that's it for today. To quickly summarize what we have learned today, we have learned what is the difference between assets, liabilities, and expenses. We've also checked in saying that savings is typically for the short term. Short term is typically for somewhere around less than 5 years, typically for 3 years. And instead of taking a loan and paying that in 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, it is always better to start bit earlier, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years earlier. The same amount what you will pay as EMI, put it into savings, and we will all be having much more cash. That is the time when we make money to work for us. That is a summary. So let's quickly go in for a quick end of session understanding. I'll close this poll and go for the next one. So let's quickly take this poll to understand, to quickly recap on our understanding of today's session. Please give your answers. You can choose multiple items which are true for this particular question. Which of these goals can I meet using savings? You can choose multiple right answers. Just leave the ones that you don't think is the right answer. Is the poll visible to you all? Yeah. I have some results. Okay, fantastic. So let me end the poll and look out for the results. Now sharing the results. Okay, which of these goals can I meet using savings? Retirement, somebody has answered no. We should not be looking at retirement savings, retirement plan using savings. That is a wrong choice. Child education, no. Marriage, no. Very good. Nobody has answered for that. Down payment for house, yes, that is very good. Down payment for car, premium for life and health insurance, college or school fees, yearly school fees, premium for vehicle, emergency fund. Fantastic. All those are right answers. Which among these is the wealthiest? Fantastic. All of you have answered the first person because his, what do you call, wealth will be 400 months. Second person will be 200 months. Third person will be somewhere around 250 months. So that way, the first person's wealth is much, much more. Which is the best option for paying yearly school fees? It should not be gold loan. It should not be personal loan. Very good. It should be 1 year recurring deposit with bank. Fantastic. All of you have answered that right. 3-year cumulative deposits, no. 3-year postal, 5-year postal deposit, again, no. Life insurance endowment fund, no. Stock market, actually, no. We should not be looking for yearly returns from the stock market. That's very difficult to predict and all those things. And let's say, for example, this year, just before the school period, the stock market had fallen down by almost 25-30%. So then what do we do? Then we cannot pay the fees, right? So we should not be looking at stock market for the yearly payments. We should be only be looking at recurring deposit with bank. And which is the best option for house down payment? Target being next 3 years. Okay. Fantastic. I'm again very happy here. Cumulative corporate bond plus recurring deposit. That is the right answer. Stock market, again, bit risky. Yes, you can look at stock market, but bit risky because it is less than 3 years. Postal recurring, definitely no, because postal recurring is a lock-in period of 5 years. So we should not be going in for recurring deposits of postal. Life insurance, single premium, definitely no. Nobody has answered for that. I'm very happy. I think the purpose of the last few sessions have served. None of the life insurance plans will serve the purpose for this house down payment. Gold loan also no. Now don't take loan. That is the idea. So I'm very happy with the poll results, the learning understanding from this session. Thank you. So any other queries that you will have for now? Any of you?
Thank you, sir. Once again, today's session is very good.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't see the chat.
Sir, suggest me various sources of a passive income.
Passive income, yes. We will discuss that in the next 2 sessions in detail itself. I'm just now looking at the chat. Vinod, you have asked about passive income. We will discuss about that. We'll discuss in detail about that, all that. Okay, procedure to buy government bond, corporate and bank bonds. Okay, bonds, the corporate bonds and other things, they are available for regular purchase through brokers and other agencies. So typically corporate bonds are bonds like your Ashok Leyland Finance or Mahindra Finance. They're all very highly, or Bajaj Finance bonds. Those are all highly reliable and safe bonds with a good rating. So what we need to look at when we are looking at corporate bonds is we need to look at the rating of those bonds. So when the rating is less, the interest rate may be more. So don't just fall for interest rate when we are looking at the corporate bonds.
Huge risk, sir.
What is that, sir? What is that?
Huge risk.
Yeah, that's
for
a
the
huge
low star rating company.
Exactly. That's a huge risk and we may not get back the money. Devan Housing, for that matter. The entire company went flop. And so those are the risks that we are carrying. Or many chit funds, their bonds and those kind of things. So those will be pretty risky. So don't go in for high risk bonds. Let's look at some which are good ratings and where you would also know the business behind it. HDFC's bonds. So HDFC is Housing Development Finance Corporation, not HDFC Bank. So that is the parent of HDFC Bank. So they also will come out with bonds. So they make more sense. So why would a company want to give out bonds? So let's understand that also. See, when I go to a bank, when I go to a bank for a loan, the bank will have so many expenses, right? And where does the bank get the money from for lending it to a company? That they get the money from people like us, from the public.
Savings,
So the
by
bank
savings
takes.
in the form of
I couldn't get you. I'm sorry.
pooling up the money of savings of a lot of people.
Exactly. Very right. So the bank takes money from all of us who are the deposit holders. The bank gives us, let's say, 6% as fixed deposit interest. It
And they
takes from
charge
all
around
of us. It has its own expenses, which gets added to that 6%. And finally, when it gives us a loan to a big company, they will lend it to them at somewhere around 10%, 12%, right? So the cost for the loan from that for that company goes up. So when a very highly reliable bank, a reliable company with all the approvals from RBI, from SEBI and all those things, when they are able to get those approvals, they can go directly to the public and take money from the public itself. There are many regulations to govern
that too.
this.
That too. This is like a short period of time, sir. Like commercial papers, all this for 1 year.
There are different types. It can be for 1 year. They can be cumulative
Or
deposits for 3 years, 5 years. There can be different types.
but this through high income companies only, sir, right?
Exactly, exactly. They cannot be very small companies which we won't know whether they can, if they run away and all those things.
Yes,
They
sir.
will be large companies with all approvals from the regulators. Only they can approach the public to take deposits. So when these companies with all the approvals, when they come directly to the public, they don't have to pay 12%. They can offer us something like 8%, 9% and take money from us. So it is good deal for us also. If we go to the bank and deposit, we can get only 6%, 5.5%. And when the company goes to the bank, they can get it at only 12%, 11%. But when the company directly comes to us, we also benefit because we can get 8%, 9%. Company also benefits because instead of 12%,
They
they
are
can
earning.
get the rate at 8%, 9%. So everybody benefits there instead of the money going to bank and its expenses and other things. So
And
that is
that
the
too.
corporate deposit. So
And
we can
that too.
take.
It will. And that too. It will be renewable for people also. It.
Yeah, we can renew it, and if we want interest in between, we can get that money. We can say, okay, every month give me the interest alone. So some of these companies will give you monthly interest, quarterly interest, half-yearly interest, or sometimes annual interest. So it depends. Almost all the companies will give you quarterly, half-yearly, and annual interest. Some of these companies will even give you monthly interest. All that will directly get credited into your bank account also. So even post-retirement, this becomes a good option. After retirement,
Yes,
not for creating the corpus for retirement, but after you retire, you need monthly income. For that,
like
one portion you can consider using into putting it into these corporate deposits.
passive income.
Like
Sub fund passive income, like passive
that is
income,
one of the
term
passive
fund.
incomes. Correct. This is one of the passive incomes. I don't work. Somebody is working. I'm giving them the money, and they are giving me monthly income. It is one of the sources for passive income. Correct. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you mentioned that.
Okay, sir. What are the best schemes for investing in this?
Best scheme for investing in child's future age? Mutual funds. Definitely mutual funds. We'll discuss about that in the next session, which is tomorrow. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock evening, we'll have our next session. There is no gap because being a Sunday and Monday, I'm not leaving this 1 day gap. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, we have our next session where we will be talking about the stock market, where we will start looking at investments. Today we saw about savings. Tomorrow and on Wednesday, which will be our final session, we'll be looking at investments, the growing of wealth, where we magnify the wealth. That was what we'll be looking at.
Okay. Bye, sir.
Fine. We'll close now. Thank you everyone for being with me on a Sunday, and best wishes.
Thank you for your.
Thank you. Bye
It's
bye.
a great session.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, sir.
Have a great day. Bye.